Since the dawn of filmmaking, there have been many attempts by animation companies to experiment with their craft and create something as unique as ever, regardless of whether it captivates audiences or not. Starting the second part of our countdown is one of those experiments. It got mostly positive reception, with some otherwise mixed or negative reviews. Regardless, it's pretty much become forgotten today, and that's a shame because this movie practically defines the meaning of the word engaging. Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron. It's like the common type of family animated film from DreamWorks, except there's no comedic sidekicks, none of the songs are sung by characters in the movie, and there's not too much character dialogue. It's a wild horse's journey to return to his family that feels so remarkably grounded in reality. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. The animals don't talk, and that is a big blessing. Instead, the title character, voiced by Matt Damon, gives first-person narration to tell the story, and the songs, from Bryan Adams, beautifully flesh out Spirit's emotional state. Neither aspect feels out of place, and instead only strengthens our connection with such an interesting animal as he expresses joy, pain, and struggle throughout his quest.
If you lose yourself, your courage soon will follow, so be strong tonight. Remember who you are.
The outcome of the story might be obvious, but the movie never loses its strong grip on the viewer to anything that could otherwise throw off its wonderful balance of action, drama, and freedom from the confinements of most family animated features.
Fighting in a battle to be free.
We all know that Disney now owns Marvel, and recent times have seen more superhero movies than ever before. Though the company markets the Marvel characters, the animators at Disney have so far only brought one of the comic empire's superhero teams to the big screen, with Big Hero 6. This movie made me laugh and connect with the characters like no Disney or comic book film really has in a while. In fact, I enjoyed this movie a lot more than Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep, I said that. What I think really helped was how easy it was to connect with protagonist Hiro Hamada, who goes through one of the best character changes of any recent Disney character. He's arrogant and negligent over his intelligence at first, but is equally entertaining and likable. You can also easily sympathize with him, since he has had to face many tragic events in his life, often making him feel vengeful. Revenge plays a really strong part in Big Hero 6's story, especially the motivation of the movie's surprise villain. I thought the build-up to his reveal was staged really well, resulting in a very exceptional Disney villain. Without saying who it is, it's Disney reminding us that fame has a way of hiding a widely admired individual's dark side. Meshing well with the revenge aspect, the movie also provides subtext about mankind's relationship with technology and how it can be used to either aid or impair our society. The movie's title might be a bit misleading, seeing as there's a lot of focus primarily on Hiro and his relationship with Baymax, who might be limited in his ability because of his programming, but is a major driving force in moving Hiro toward his goals and making the right decisions. Of course, the four other team members, Gogo, Wasabi, Honey Lemon, and Fred, though all secondary characters, are not only delightful comic reliefs, but they all played just as big a part in Hiro's character development, serving as parent-like figures who believe in him and guide him through his challenges. In terms of the animation, by God, is this movie a marvel, no pun intended, to look at! The futuristic world of San Francisco is both ambitious and innovative, but it's also believable. In other words, it will definitely hold up a lot better than Back to the Future Part 2's depiction of 2015 in the long run. Of course, all this praise is coming from someone who casually watches superhero films, but while some might think of this movie as a mere extended cartoon episode, I say that Big Hero 6 is nothing more than Disney truly soaring to awesome heights. In fact, this is one of those movies I'd actually love to see Disney make a sequel to. And by that, I mean a sequel that will be released in theaters. Now we come to a very unique entry, courtesy of the Rankin Bass Company, the studio behind many classic animated holiday specials, as well as 80s cartoon Thundercats, the made-for-TV movie versions of The Hobbit and The Return of the King, and the theatrical movie adaptation of Peter S. Spiegel's The Last Unicorn. In ancient folklore, unicorns symbolized innocence, strength, and hope for unfortunate individuals. However, thanks to modern pop culture, this creature has been reduced to symbolizing embarrassment. This movie is one of the few times in the last 30 years where a unicorn is portrayed in a respectful manner. It's about a lone unicorn who, upon hearing that she might be the last of her kind, leaves the comfort of her forest to search for other unicorns. The story is a metaphor of a world without happiness, where sadness is abundant and people everywhere are losing faith in themselves, something that many people in our world struggle with all the time. It also delves into ideas like self-discovery, sacrifice, and keeping faith. The unicorn offers hope to humans who still have faith and believe in her, and avoids those who have stopped believing and mistaken her for a white horse. The story's strong originality and mystical atmosphere results in something rather unique among all fantasy and family films. The animation might reflect that the film's budget was low, but it still creates a visually enchanting and gorgeous world using a colorful type of appearance that looks as though it was inspired by medieval-era stained glass. The voice cast, with well-known names like Mia Farrow, Alan Arkin, Jeff Bridges, Angela Lansbury, and even Christopher Lee, is spot on, and the soundtrack, with music by Jimmy Webb and songs by the band America, is just wonderful, and full of inspiring lyrics and imagery. The best song, though, is the opening theme, which starts the movie on a really strong note.
When the first breath of winter through the flowers is icing, and you look to the north, and the pale moon is rising, and it seems like all is dying, and would leave the world to mourn. In the distance, hear the laughter of the last unicorn.
I interpret this song as a reminder that when you start to lose hope and feel like you're failing at your life, just lift yourself back up and remember that there is always a chance for a better future. Because it's a very distinct movie, The Last Unicorn might not work for everyone, but to fans like myself, it's a wonderful gem that we will treasure for many years to come. If I were ever to choose an animated theatrical feature to watch as a kid, it was usually either Disney's Dinosaur or Don Bluth's The Land Before Time. To this day, I still really enjoy both movies, but it's actually the latter title that has the bigger place in my heart. It combines my biggest childhood passion with many of the things I love as an adult. At first, it might just look like a prehistoric version of Bambi, in that the movie centers around some young animal characters, and one of the central themes is handling loss and growing up. I think Land Before Time is easily more superior, with the way it's fleshed out to cover other ideas like prejudiced behavior, and even contains some religious allusions, with story elements that can be compared not only to the tale of Exodus, but to the Passion of Jesus as well. The journey to the Great Valley is very much like the Christian belief that when someone believes in God and does good throughout their life, then they will make it to heaven. Littlefoot is taught about how he can make it to the Great Valley through his mother's teachings, and when he is left to help his new friends, he tells them the same things he was taught. The two of them also step in to risk their lives to save individuals who have committed sin. So in a way, they are both very much like Jesus Christ. Sarah, Ducky, Petrie, and Spike are like the disciples of Jesus in that they trust Littlefoot, but they question his beliefs at the same time. And Sharptooth is like a demonic force seeking to punish sinners with the way he constantly seeks to eat the young dinosaurs. It's the serious subject matter that makes a short and intense movie a work of nostalgic wonder. I truly think this is Bluth's best movie. It features the most interesting characters, the warmest sense of humor, the best use of hand-drawn animation, the best emphasis on tragedy, and the best soundtrack without musical numbers. Speaking of soundtrack, when it was announced last year that composer James Horner passed away, the first thing that came to my mind was the soothing and grand music he wrote for The Land Before Time. This is one of my favorite animated soundtracks, period, and who can possibly forget the wise and powerful words of the movie's closing theme song, If We Hold On Together, sung by the sensational Diana Ross. As I've grown up, I've come to realize that this movie has been the source of many of the important things I have learned about life. One day, I really hope to share this movie with my own kids, and hope that they will find something special in this journey from a long time ago. Today, DreamWorks Animation is so driven to make sequels to almost anything they make that I can't help but seek pleasure in some of their earlier titles that didn't get sequels or even need them for that matter. Especially my personal favorite, The Prince of Egypt. The story of Exodus has been told many times, and while this version might take many liberties from the original story, it maintains a strong grip on the intense and enlightening tone of the tale, something that the last big-budget adaptation failed completely to create. What's really interesting about this version is how much focus is placed on the relationship of Moses and Ramesses as brothers. The two of them love one another, but feel distanced by their significant differences. Ramesses is determined to carry on with the corrupt ruling system of his father and using the Jews as slaves to build his kingdom, while Moses comes to show pity for the Jews and ponders where his true place is. You come to feel his pain and conflict as he just wants what's best for his brother and his people.
Do you still not understand what said he was?
He was a great leader.
His hands bore the blood of thousands of children.
Slaves.
My people. And I can no longer hide in the desert while they suffer. At your hands.
The mix of hand-drawn and computer animation is perfect for recreating the innovative majesty of ancient Egypt, from the grand man-made architecture to the supernatural mythical images. It's so glorious to look at, but is also quite emotionally draining in the way it captures the pain and tragedy that many unfortunate individuals are forced to endure. As a kid, scenes like Moses' nightmare and the plagues traumatized me for years. What's also interesting is how this is the only DreamWorks theatrical animated release that can technically be classified as a musical. All of the songs are performed by characters in the movie, and they all play a part in telling the story. The score from Hans Zimmer combines with Stephen Schwartz's songs to create one of the most harmonious and epic family film soundtracks ever.
What a man is worth by what he builds or buys. You can never see with your eyes on earth. Look through heaven's eyes. Look at your life. Look at your life. Look at your life through heaven's eyes.
Those what miracles you can achieve.
Being a family feature, there can be a moment or two with out-of-place humor, such as the instances with the two high priests, but the movie makes up for its flaws very quickly. In the time since this movie's release, I don't think DreamWorks Animation has released anything as incredible and persuasive as Prince of Egypt, so I hope the company will hear my prayer and deliver something as equally wonderful. If the work of any foreign animation director appears on a best of list more than once, the honor usually is given to Hayao Miyazaki, and the movie that many consider to be his magnum opus is his 2002 classic, Spirited Away. While moving with her parents to a new town, a young girl named Chihiro finds herself stuck in a world of strange beings and magic. Her parents become pigs, and she is forced to work in the spirit bathhouse of the insane and bossy Yubaba. Despite all of the trouble she gets in, Chihiro, or Sen as she is renamed, must prove she can handle living in this demented world in order to return home. It's almost like Miyazaki's version of Alice in Wonderland, and in similar ways to Lewis Carroll's story, many strange and surreal circumstances occur at sudden timings, but all come to have an impact on a very real human character. At first, Chihiro is quite whiny and uncomfortable with doing anything new. It's from the pain of her past mistakes and understandable fears that the audience comes to care for her and relate to her experiences with their own fears and anxieties in the everyday world. The bathhouse represents an unbalanced part of reality where people are often rude, ignorant, gluttonous, and materialistic. It's because of the randomness that we see Chihiro's development in maturity and her understanding of the complications in the world in order to handle her problems alone. Her actions ultimately help her make peace with the workers, teach them about the proper ways of living, and show how she is learning to stand up for herself. When the movie isn't crazy, it's peaceful and rich in natural beauty, reminding us of the quiet times when a human can just sit and contemplate on the current state they are in, and hope for good things to come. Overall, it might not be my favorite Miyazaki movie, but Spirited Away is still a magnificent part of his legendary career. What usually matters the most about watching a good movie is not whether it's internationally applauded, but what kind of impression it has on a viewer as an individual. Sometimes it's just the joyful memory of something that counts the most, as demonstrated in our first Pixar entry, Up. Pixar has a real talent for making some of their ideas sound really weird on paper, and then they surprise their audiences with a wonderful story and very likable characters. The charm of Up lies in its message of enjoying the things you are blessed with, regardless of whether your ultimate goal in life is achieved or not. Adventure enthusiast Carl Fredricksen has always wanted to go to South America and live at the one and only Paradise Falls. Despite his age, he takes a chance and flies his house with thousands of helium balloons away from civilization, only to be interrupted by stowaway wilderness explorer Russell and a series of dangerous obstacles. What makes Carl such a wonderful character is his perseverance. He has had a full life of blessings with his late wife Ellie, despite some of the devastating events he has experienced. When it seems all hope is lost, he simply rises again like a phoenix and strives for his goal. Through his journey, he comes to find a son he never had in Russell, risks his life to save a unique bird species from the film's surprise villain, and finds a new purpose in his life. There really isn't much I can say without spoiling the movie, so I'm just going to conclude with saying that the title summarizes the movie really well. Because when misery is all around and hope is hard to find, the only way out of your problems is up.
So long, boys! I'll send you a postcard from Paradise Falls!
Among the stories that try to recreate history, tales involving war might be the hardest to ever do justice to, because they involve the worst suffering, loss, and damage imaginable. It's a devastating domino effect that claims the lives of soldiers, innocent adults, and then children, as shown in Isao Takahata's Grave of the Fireflies. Unlike a lot of other famous war movies, Fireflies features a pretty straightforward narrative, following the hardships that its two child characters, Seda and Setsuko, contend with near the end of World War II. They lose almost everything after their city is bombed, and are fortunate to have a place to go to at their aunt's house in the mountains. But their stay comes to frustrate her after a while, and they choose to find a home of their own in an abandoned bomb shelter, only to have more trouble follow. Of Studio Ghibli's 21 films, this is hands down the most realistic, not only because it contains no fantasy elements, but also because of how detailed a recreation of its time period it is. The people of Japan suffered terribly at the end of the Great War, and the dead bodies, desolate graves, and intense frustration depicted in this film is a mere summary of the tragedy. The movie's title is pretty accurate as well. Fireflies, like all bugs, are so small and vulnerable that their lives are a constant war for survival. In times of war, human casualties are so abundant that they become insects who have lived relatively short lifespans. Seeing as the fireflies provide hope to the kids in one of the movie's few happy moments, they might represent all of the innocent lives who just wanted nothing to do with the war in the first place. These kids go through so much hardship that you can't help but root for Seda when he has to take every risk he can to help his sister, even if it means resorting to stealing. It's one of the most well-balanced war movies I've seen, in that it can be both uplifting and tragic without becoming overly manipulative or overrun by filler. It shows how the craft and talent of Studio Ghibli is unlimited, and takes all kinds of risks that not too many animation companies are willing to take. Of course, that's not to say that other big animation names specializing in family fare haven't explored tragedy as well. In fact, one of Pixar's most unique films highlights a future which we could very well be on our way to seeing, with WALL-E. Though Pixar hasn't always been pretty, WALL-E is the company's darkest project as of today. In the year 2805, planet Earth is devoid of humans and overrun with garbage. The only inhabitant is a lonely little robot programmed to clean everything up, until he is greeted by another robot called Eve, sent to check for any signs of life on Earth. The most distinctive aspect of WALL-E is that there's very little human dialogue. Instead, it's the images that tell most of the film's very simple and sad story.
Over to the driving range and hit a few virtual balls into space.
Nah, we did that yesterday. I don't want to do that.
Well, then what do you want to do?
I don't know. Something.
Whoa.
Make a play scream.
No, it doesn't sound.
Look, I'm tired of
So we'll talk next week.
If you can't fool the straw, it's not
You have
really
to-
exciting.
WALL-E and Eve make for one of the most interesting couples in animation, in part because they don't speak like humans, and are flawed at first because they only know about what they were programmed for and are used to different functions. However, the movie's most interesting characters have to be the humans living on the Axiom ship. It's just so disturbing to see how laziness and dependence on technology has gravely affected their minds and health. Ironically, their whole fate lies in the hands of two small forms of technology. The movie is almost like Pixar's answer to the Qatsi trilogy of director Godfrey Reggio. In the light of tragedy, though, there is a lot of heart, beautiful visuals, and one of the least preachiest attempts at an environmental message, which many viewers will hopefully take seriously. WALL-E is just another one of Pixar's many strange, yet brilliant ideas that excels beyond all possible doubts to become something truly unforgettable. As WALL-E demonstrated, even in movies, actions can speak louder than words. So what if a movie relied on the actions and emotions of human characters with almost no human dialogue at all, and still resulted in an emotionally challenging tale with a lot of heartbreak? Well, that's just what director Sylvain Chomet accomplished with The Illusionist. In the 1950s, a magician known as Tatishef is losing his audience as people begin to take interest in new types of entertainment. While performing in a small Scottish pub, he encounters a young girl named Alice, who is fascinated by his tricks and accepting of his kindness. The magician allows Alice to join him on his demanding journey, only to get himself in more trouble as he purchases expensive clothing for Alice, continues to lose his audiences, and can't take on any normal jobs. This movie is just too real in the way it depicts the hardships that artists of all generations have experienced and gone through themselves. What's ironic is how this is a hand-drawn animated feature, and that's a form of art that has dwindled among many studios and might disappear before we know it. It's the foreign companies that still use this art style, and most of them still use it wonderfully. The style presented here is a lot more realistic looking than Chaumet's work in The Triplets of Belleville, and while the design is still very creative to look at, it adds to the realistic pain that you feel for Tatashev and the other unsuccessful artists. As with Up and WALL-E, there really isn't much to say about this movie without giving a lot away. To put it bluntly, it most effectively illustrates how much of an enemy a change in time can be for some people. Nonetheless, it's a unique masterwork of its kind. And now, we come to the end of part 2, going into my top 10 favorite animated films of all time. Be sure to join me for the conclusion, where I decide on the best of the best in the world of animation. See you next time.